So, before we do anything, we should definitely watch the video together, get acquainted with the material we'll be working with throughout these tutorials, and get a sense of the types of sounds we were needed, and just do a little bit of basic analysis and start to think about things from a very, very creative perspective before we look into any of the technicals. So, without further ado, let's watch the clip for Like Lambs. So here,
I can't.
one of the girls drops an item, a golden item, which you can see here.
I can't.
Missing footsteps as well, as the girls are running away. Missing footsteps of the character as he approaches. And I think often the microphone on location just doesn't pick up a lot of details, like footsteps, particularly if they're walking slowly. But dramatically, we may want to add them, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. The door opening was extremely quiet and quite probably reflective of what that door naturally sounds like. Not particularly cinematic, but let's keep moving.
You are not allowed in.
And there we heard him, this character over here, screaming his lungs out, but relatively he was quite quiet compared to probably what we would want him to sound. And this character over here, he steps into the frame and
You are not allowed in.
and speaks lines on what seems to be the same audio track as the other guy screaming. So that's a little problem we need to look at a little bit later as well. There's the natural door sound that was recorded on the day. And there we have the quiet sound of him climbing up the stairs. The door makes almost no sound at all as it opens. Quiet footsteps.
There's almost no money left, Charlie. Just the houses.
Okay, so that clip is quite typical of what you might get from a picture editor. It's got the original sound that was recorded on set, the dialogue, and, you know, some little bits of effects like the door closing, which were all captured by the microphone on set. Now, obviously, the track is really naked. We're going to be looking at ways to bring more life to all of that action. And I think the first thing that we start with really is Foley, and thinking about the types of sounds we would love to include in there. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Foley, Foley is any human movement sound. Hands, feet, the sound that fabric makes, the sound that props make as we handle them. And Foley is recorded in a Foley studio, typically by a Foley artist, whose job it is to watch the videos and perform the movements at the same time as the characters. And that basically gives the characters weight, it creates a lot of texture, and it also, in a weird way, directs the eye. If you use the sound of footsteps moving this way, the eye will naturally travel with those speakers and see where that character's going, and so on. And so I don't do my own Foley. I would typically start this process by creating a list of things that we need. And so just watching back the video, there's the handling of the jewellery, there's the dropping of the jewellery on the ground, there's the girls storming away, there's the character walking towards the door, there's the handling of the door, there's the approach of the guy, the older guy that closes the door on him, there's all the rustling and movement and chaos that's going on the hospital bed. There's the sound of the running up the stairs. walking in through the room, and the character by the window is smoking and seems pretty distressed. Now that we have an idea as to the type of Foley that we're going to need to fill the scene, the next area is to think about the backgrounds or atmospheres. What is happening in the atmosphere in this scene? What do you want the audience to feel, and how can we get them there? Now, of course, music is an option. You know, you get the right kind of music that carries the right kind of emotion, and it carries a scene and it fills it out. As a sound designer, often the challenge is finding ways to convey musical ideas or emotional ideas in the sound design without resorting straight to music. And so a little later on in the tutorials, we'll show you the solution that we had for that. But before we get on to that, in this next lesson, we're going to be looking at setting up a session to make sure that all of our routing and all of our tracks are in order so that we can start getting creative and start exploring ways to really bring this scene alive.